My brother in commiseration right now. He's still rocking the blue and orange. I'm the same way. I got out of the fetal position so I can do the show today. We are still in mourning here. It's the one and only Jake Asman, the Jake Asman Show. What's going on, brother? How are you?
What's up, Jay? I mean, I'd ask you, how you doing, but I already know. I'm the same way, man. Just deflated, so disappointing. You have the just craziness of how they came back and won game 3 to give you some hope, and then just last night, just the way that went down, just the performance by so many of the key guys you knew you needed to get production from, and just how bad even a guy like Josh Hart, who I love, is probably my favorite player on the team. Maybe his worst game ever as a Knick. Just collectively, it just wasn't good enough. When you play a team as good as Indiana and their star player has a career game, you're not going to win.
Yeah, no doubt. And as a wrestling fan, too, seeing Triple H and Tony and Khan there as well, I was not happy with that. Pat McAfee saying that you sons of bitches got to go home. Like, you guys are killing me right now. This is not good. You're adding insult to injury. This sucks. Yeah, I'm with you, man. And looking at the game last night, and you'll appreciate this. I just talked to Dave Randorf, the Lightning play-by-play voice. He was longtime Hockey Night in Canada guy. I asked him about Reggie Miller because I don't know about you, Jake, but like Reggie is just I think that makes it that much tougher watching these games and listening to Reggie just fawn everything that Indiana does. It's like the greatest thing in the world. I mean, does Aaron Nesmith know how to fight over screens? Because I feel like him and Van Gundy have been talking about this forever, and it's just like, am I the only person that's going crazy listening to the broadcast too, or are you feeling the same way?
Yeah, 100%. That's, being here in New York, that's been a huge talking point for sure. And honestly, Stan at times has been more annoying than Reggie. Like, it's brutal, man. Like, I got no love for Stan Van Gundy. He took shots at Knick fans earlier in the year, which is just odd considering like his brother was the coach the last time they were in the finals, and Jeff Van Gundy swears by how great the Knick fan base is, and we know how great the Knick fan base is. That's why they're celebrating on the streets after every playoff win, because of how passionate they are about their team that hasn't been good in so long until these last couple of years. So, yeah, it's just the broadcast has been frustrating. The officiating, I think, at times has been brutal, and some of the key players that the Knicks need to play like the star players they're being paid like, they just haven't done it, and it's incredibly frustrating. It all goes back to me, though, to that game 1 debacle. As bad as last night is, could easily be 2-2 right now, right? Like the margin for error is very thin for these two teams. It wouldn't shock me if the Knicks won game 5 tomorrow and at least get it back to Indiana for game 6. But I have a terrible feeling we're going to be lamenting just how devastating blowing game 1 and the historic nature they did, because from there, you now feel like you got to beat them 5 times. Right. And that's really tough to do. Indiana is really, really good.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think there's just like little things throughout the game. Like Brunson, I thought came back and played a good game. But, as great as Karl Anthony Towns has been, like he makes these stupid, silly little fouls. And, he's played great down the stretch. And I love that he's going to the basketball. And he doesn't get the calls from the refs. Like, he doesn't have that respect that stars get around the league. There's these little things throughout the games that the Knicks don't. They never play like consistent. And now it's like, hey, let's bring Landry Shamet and DeLon Wright into the games where, people were like, oh, that's such a terrible decision. Well, they were on the court when they tied the game last night. So it's just like, it just seems like, I don't know if the coaching, I'm not one of those people that, you're talking about firing Tom Thibodeau, really? Like, people are talking about that. But it seems like he's learning on the fly as well. Are they cooked? Do they have any chance to come back? I think that they will win game 5. If they win that game 6, like, I don't know. I don't want to get too far down the road, but what do you think if you had to, like, is there any chance that they can come back and win this series?
So there's a chance at 3-1. Like, it has happened before, especially when 2 of the 3 games are in your own building. The problem is the Knicks have not played well in these playoffs at Madison Square Garden. They're 3-5. That's supposed to be a place where teams come in and they can't win there. And it's been the total opposite for whatever the reason. So, I do think, because these two teams are very evenly matched, and the Knicks do have a superstar in Jalen Brunson, a star in Karl Anthony Towns, who we saw what he's capable of. He took over the game the other night, 20 points in the 4th quarter, and they came back and won. You can't rule it out. It's just unlikely that Indiana is going to lose 3 straight times. I look at it like this as a Knicks fan. Don't lose at home. Don't let these guys, for the 2nd year in a row, come into your building and win a playoff series, eliminate you at MSG, especially tomorrow night when we're talking about a trophy presentation for them going to the NBA Finals.
Oof.
And the last time Indiana went to the Finals, they beat the Knicks at Madison Square Garden to get there in 2000. So don't let them do it again. That to me is the big thing. Get it to a game 6 and take it one game at a time. That's all you could really do. Once again, this series very easily could be 2-2 right now. So we've seen 3-1 comebacks before. If the Knicks can win game 5, go to game 6 and put the pressure on Indiana. How do we know there's not an ankle twist to another one of their key players that influences a game 6? And then all of a sudden, if you're in a game 7, it becomes a coin flip at that point, and you got a chance with you being at home. So would I pick the Knicks? No, but I'm also not going to sit here and be like, they're done. I mean, they're a favorite tomorrow night. They win tomorrow, you get it to game 6, you take your best chance, you go from there.
Yeah, especially if you have Mr. Clutch, Jalen Brunson comes up big and you keep it close. And I think they probably did the most improbable thing that we've seen in the playoffs so far, and that's winning those first 2 games against Boston, right? I don't care what happens for the rest of the playoffs. The most improbable thing that's happened were the Knicks down by 20 points in both those games and winning those 2 games in Boston against the Celtics. Who do you think's more hated right now, Halliburton or Reggie Miller? It might still be Reggie now, do you think?
Yeah.
But I feel like there's a lot of runway when it comes to Halliburton. Like, oh yeah, you may only be here, buddy, but you may be up here when it all is said and done.
I think it depends on the type of fan you're going to ask how old they are, right? I think if you're a Knicks fan who went through the wars with the Pacers in the 90s with Reggie Miller, you're probably still going to say Reggie Miller because of how often they played. This is just the second time the Knicks have faced Halliburton in the playoffs. So I think we're getting there. I think more Knicks fans would still say Reggie, but you got to understand, if you're a Knicks fan 35 or under, you don't remember those 90s teams. You don't remember the battles with Reggie Miller and the Pacers. You're too young. Like, the Knicks have not played in a conference finals in 25 years, right? So there's a lot of Knicks fans that this is their first taste of Eastern Conference final play. And because of that, I think if you ask the Knicks fan who's younger, they're going to say it's Halliburton. If you ask a seasoned Knicks fan or just a Knicks fan who's probably 35 or up that remembers those late 90s teams and the battles specifically with Indiana, they're going to say Reggie Miller. So I think it just depends on the age of the Knicks fan.
Yeah, it's a good point. I was saying before that I still have Reggie sucks written in blue chalk on my parents' basement wall. It's still there. I looked at it over the holidays and it's just like that's in there, man. That scar, the Greg Anthony, the points, the choke, like that's still in there. That's never going to leave. I'll carry that with me until the day I die. How about, I want to ask you a Yankees question. The Yankees are on fire right now. They are firing on all cylinders. Ben Rice with the big home run last night. I mean, obviously, down here with the Rays, 6-game winning streak snapped last night. But man, Judge has been on an absolute tear. And you want to talk about a team, it looks like Luis Hill should be on his way back here soon. No Garrett Cole, no Giancarlo Stanton. I know he's about to take BP, but man, it worked out pretty good for them not, bringing back Juan Soto because of what Max Fried and Goldschmidt and Bellinger have done. Like, I think Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone deserve a lot more credit than – I know it's weird people say, like, oh, they're the Yankees. They should be good. But, man, I mean, the decisions that they've made and how well they've played so far this season, I mean, Yankee fans have to be happy up there in the Big Apple.
And to your point, Jay, while the Yankees are typically good every year, there were a lot of questions with this team because of not just losing Soto and who they replaced him with, a lot of injuries you alluded to there. They haven't had an at-bat this season from Giancarlo Stanton. Garrett Cole is not throwing a pitch this year. He won't the entire season, right? They have gotten some tremendous production from a lot of guys beyond just some of the guys they added, right? They've gotten some awesome contributions from Ben Rice, who you brought up. They've gotten some awesome contributions from Luke Weaver, who has really locked down the closer role after Devin Williams was supposed to be that guy who they acquired, and he has struggled and has been up and down. He's been better of late, and he didn't blow it last night. He did get the last 3 outs of the game. But, I look at it like this. I think it's a combination of a few things. I think the Yankees, until proven otherwise, they're still the best team in the American League. They were in the World Series last year, and I don't think their division got better. We thought Boston would take this big step. They haven't. Now Bregman's out. Toronto, they're okay. The Rays, up and down. I don't think we look at the Rays as a legitimate contender out of the American League East. I mean, the Orioles have been the biggest disappointment in baseball. I mean, they're not just bad; they're awful.
They're terrible.
So yeah. The AL is just not that great. Like, the American League Central doesn't scare you. I know the Tigers have the best record right now, and in a playoff series, you got to deal with Skubal twice. I get it, but
that's a beast. Yeah.
I mean, look at the Yankees' history against the AL Central. I mean, that's a big reason why they were able to get to the World Series last year for the first time in 15 years. They didn't have to go through Houston. They didn't have to deal with Baltimore. It was Kansas City, and then Cleveland, and they have owned the Central in their history. So I think they are a really good team. The biggest difference with this year's team and last year's team is they're just better balanced, right? Last year it was all Judge and Soto. This year you have a way more balanced lineup, and even without Cole, Max Fried, if the season ended today, he'd win the American League Cy Young Award. How good has Carlos Rodon been this year? I mean,
last night, phenomenal.
Phenomenal, right? So you have him. Clark Schmidt has been steady. You're going to get Luis Seal back. Adam Warren has been really good in their rotation of late. Ryan Yarbrough, who I know your audience obviously knows well, he's been a revelation for them. So obviously Judge is otherworldly, and he's going to run away if he stays healthy with another MVP. But they've been really getting contributions from everyone, and I think what helps the Yankees is the American League is just not that good. So I think until proven otherwise, they're going to remain the favorites to get back to the World Series.
Yeah, I think Dominguez getting those at-bats instead of Verdugo's been a big help. Grisham's been fantastic as well.
Another guy.
You get Jorbeat, and a guy named Jorbeat. My dad's like, what kind of name is Jorbeat? And I'm like, hey, man, a guy, he's a battler, man. He takes.
By the way, Jazz Chisholm's been hurt, and they haven't really missed him. So they've dealt with a lot of injuries and have been able to overcome it. And it's amazing. I mean, I think they have a 7-game lead in the division right now on May 28th. I mean, the Yankees, I don't think, have had this big of a lead in a division in a very, very long time. Goes back, I think, over 10 years I saw. So, I mean, what they're doing right now is, I think, a surprise to a lot of people. I think we thought this team would be good. I don't know if we thought with the injuries they were dealing with coming out of spring training that they would already be at this level. But, give credit to Boone and Cashman. I think you're right. They probably aren't getting enough credit.
Yeah, I think they're going to run away with it. And listen, they're going to make a deal. They're going to make a deal at some point, and they're going to bring somebody in, whether they trade a Spencer Jones or one of these guys. I know he's a highly touted prospect. And what form or fashion they do to, they're going to bring in probably another arm back into the bullpen. Do they want Weaver to be their ninth inning guy long term? I didn't like the Devin Williams trade because I think that guys that are your ninth inning guys should be flamethrowers, especially when you're going in cold weather in October and November, and the changeup and the curveballs and off-speed pitches don't dance like they do in the heat of summer. I would love Devin Williams as an eighth inning guy, but as a ninth inning guy, we're used to, Mariano throwing 94, 95 with a cut. We're used to Aroldis Chapman and even David Robertson, right? Like guys like that, John Wetland, guys that threw hard. So we'll see how they address that. What about Juan Soto? Is he a Met? Is he like is he Mr. Met? Because I still feel like, I keep an eye on everything that goes on up there. And it's just like, it still seems like one day they love him. Wow. So patient at the plate. He doesn't run hard out of the box. The other days, man, he did all this, another home run. Yeah, but he's only batting 2. It's like, I don't know. Is he ever going to be fully embraced by the Mets? Like, let's say if they don't win a World Series, I don't know if he'll ever be embraced by the Mets.
No, he's got to win. But I mean, we're talking about a guy who's 2 months into a 15-year deal. We know how great know how great of a player he is. So it's been fascinating to see him struggle because, the one thing I never anticipated was him not playing well in big games and big moments. I really thought he was going to go off against the Yankees in the Subway Series because anyone who watched him last year, the pressure didn't get to him. He fed off that every big moment. He came through from his first game as a Yankee. He was making plays, throwing a guy out at home plate. I was actually at that game. It was my last day living in Houston last year. Like he was amazing from day one, had the best season of his career, parlayed that obviously with a monster postseason, hit one of the greatest home runs in Yankee history in Game 5 of the ALCS. I mean, I never could have anticipated him struggling, but his numbers with runners on base, his numbers in late and close, they're terrible. And I think he's pressing to maybe try and justify the contract, that swag that he has in the box. He's not doing it with the Soto shuffle as much now. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh my God, he's terrible now. He's Jason Bay all over again for the Met fan. But I have been surprised that has not looked anywhere near like the Juan Soto we saw last year, because you'd think last year would be the pressure year. You're playing for a contract. He crushed it. This year, he already got paid. He's already played in this market, a different team, but he's played in the New York media market before. So it is surprising to me that he struggled the way he has. That said, I feel like I'd be a fool if I say, oh, he stinks now. And it's like he's Juan Soto. He might have a down year, but there's 14 more years left, and he's 26. Lindor struggled at first as well. Piazza struggled at first as well. Like, he wouldn't be the first Met to come to that team and maybe not be great in year one. Like, I guess it happens. I'm just surprised with him because of everything we saw last year in the same media market.
Yeah, I remember the at bat last year he had in that series against Houston against Josh Hader, and it was like left on left, and he came up with the big hit, and I was like, "Oh, this guy is built for the big time." But
Yep.
he looked. I watched every single one of those games against the Mets and the Yankees. He looked miserable. He just like, and it was probably weird for him that first time going back to the Bronx. You know what I mean? You're walking into a place where they loved you so much last year, you didn't know how to handle it. Everybody's turning their back. No matter what people want to say about he's a professional athlete, he's a human being at the end of the day, man. When you're a human being and you're a guy that wears his emotions on his sleeve, it's going to be tough. I'm with you though. I think he'll figure it out. It is a long-term deal. I don't know how well it's going to age because I think eventually he's going to be a DH, but we'll go from there. I want to ask you about the Jets, man. What's kind of the biggest story out of there? I know a lot of people, my buddy Ian Beckles that I worked with for many years, he used to play with Aaron Glenn. So he's like excited. He's excited as hell to be able to see that whole situation. What's kind of the biggest story out of there? How excited are you about, them going forward to this kind of new era of Jets football?
Yeah, look, I think there's a lot of Jet fans who, they want Aaron Glenn to be the guy so badly because he was a Jet. He wanted this job. He said all the right things at the press conference. Every time he speaks, I mean, the one thing that is clear is that it's his team. He's the adult in the room. He's taking control. It's just going to come down to, well, does that translate to being a head coach, right? He was a really good coordinator. He was a great player. No one's going to say a bad thing about the guy. But does that now translate to being a good head coach? We'll find out. I mean, his offensive coordinator comes with him from Detroit. He has the former Lions pass game coordinator and Tanner Engstrand. He's never called plays at the NFL level before, so we'll see. He could be great. He might not be. And really, the ultimate unknown is Justin Fields. Is he going to do what Sam Darnold just did with the right coaching and players around him, and what Baker did in your market, of course, with the right situation? Like, Fields is talented, but that doesn't mean he's going to be a really good quarterback. So I think that's the unknown. It's like, hey, there's still a lot of talent on this roster. You have Garrett Wilson, Quincy Williams, Sauce Gardner, Breece Hall. Like, they got some really good players on this team. Their O-line on paper is the best it's been in about a decade plus. So I just think there's a lot of unknowns just with the coach and quarterback. So it's tough to really be excited about the Jets until you see how that plays out. But if it does click, there's talent there, and they should be able to compete and at least be relevant into the final month of the season, I'd imagine.
What do you make of the Pittsburgh quarterback situation? And it's kind of ironic how it kind of ties into the whole New York sphere of, you go into the season with Mason Rudolph, right? And Will Howard and I guess Aaron Rodgers, right? Like, and you just let Russell Wilson go start for the Giants. You let Justin Fields go start for the Jets, right? It's almost like part of me looks at it of how good is Justin Fields and Russell Wilson if Pittsburgh let them go and they still don't have a head coach? Or do I look at it as maybe they're getting out of Pittsburgh at the right time and maybe they're going to be better and their decision-making needs to be questioned? Because for far too long in sports, we give people the benefit of the doubt and we don't judge them on their most recent decisions. I think Pittsburgh needs to have their feet held to the fire a little bit now of like, are you really waiting for Aaron Rodgers? Like, how do you see that whole saga playing out?
To me, at some point soon, I'd imagine he signs there, right? I mean, I feel like I've said this for a while now. Maybe the last time I was on with you, we said the same thing. But, I mean, minicamp is probably in mid-June. Again, I don't know the official date. So does he want to just sign before then? And then go to mandatory minicamp so we can't get heat for that, get the playbook, learn it over the summer, and then show up in training camp? Like, is that the plan at this point? I still think he plays football. Like, I don't think he's going to retire. Right. And I'm a Rodgers guy. I like him a lot. I think at times he's covered unfairly. But I do think it's fair criticism to say, hey, man, like, a lot of people are counting on you to make a decision here. Like, I understand you might have something going on in your personal life that you alluded to, but you're showing up at the Kentucky Derby. You're going on Joe Rogan. You're doing some other podcast I never heard of and trolling, Bears fans. Like, maybe make a decision and show up. Like, I don't think it's the best look from an optics standpoint. So I think he's going to play, and I think he's their best option at quarterback over Mason Rudolph, which is why they're putting up with all this. But I am surprised we're still doing the when's he going to sign, because at this point it's like, what are you waiting for?
Last one from me. I want to ask you, because you're a guy that follows the NFL pretty closely. I look at the Detroit Lions and I don't know if you've seen their road schedule, but they go on the road and they play Baltimore and Kansas City and LA, the Rams. They play all these teams on the road and they've lost both of their coordinators. Obviously, we know, Ben Johnson going to the Bears and Aaron Glenn going to the Jets. I look at this situation similarly to a couple years ago where the Philadelphia Eagles, after they went to the Super Bowl and they lost Shane Steichen and they lost Jonathan Gannon, and they had that 1 year where they had to kind of figure everything out. Do you think Detroit is one of those teams that's a candidate for a little bit of a step back, or are you one of those people that really believes in Dan Campbell and you think they can kind of paper over some of those changes at the coordinator spots?
Well, step back could be they're still among the better teams in the league, but they're not necessarily a 14-win team again. Or actually, were they a 14 or a 15-win team? Or whatever
15.
They were.
Yeah, because 15 because the Vikings were 14. Yeah.
Right. I mean, what they did was amazing last year. I mean, they lost both coordinators. Like we saw, it took the Eagles a year to fully get back on track after they lost both their guys after their trip to the Super Bowl a few years ago. So it could potentially, take a year. I still believe they're good enough to be a playoff team, probably still the favorites in that division, of course. But are they going to be as dominant as they were last year? I mean, probably not. That's just logic would tell me that. But I still think they're among the better teams in the NFL.
The great Jake Asman. Let everybody know where they can find you, my brother.
YouTube, Jake Asman, social media at Jake Asman. You can check me out on Mad Dog Sports Radio on Sirius XM Channel 82. I'm on this Sunday from 12 to 4 Eastern, and then I host locally in New York on 880 ESPN New York. So if you like New York sports, I'm your guy. Check it out.
Yep, he is the man. And of course, we got people listening from all over, including my friends and family from New York. So they definitely are Jake Asman fans as well. And if there's breaking Jets news, Jake goes live wherever it is, man. We'll be in the middle of a convention in New York City, and Jake will run back to the hotel to get it done. Continued success, my friend. Thank you so much for your time. We'll talk soon.
Jay, always appreciate you having me. Keep crushing it with the show, man. I love when I get a chance to tune in.
Appreciate it. Go Knicks, buddy.
Let's go Knicks. Knicks in 7 somehow.
Knicks in 7 somehow. That's the T-shirt we got to make. Thanks, pal.
You got it, Jay. Thank you.
All right, man.